Good morning, everyone. I, Sukriti Mishra, along with my co-host Alina Kazmi, welcome all our teachers who have joined us here for Gurushala's two-day online training. Our theme for these 2 days is remote techniques for parent and student engagement, content creation, and post-lockdown strategies. So before we go ahead, I would like to tell everyone that Gurushala is an initiative of Indus Towers Limited and Vodafone India Foundation with Jigyasa as our content partner and implemented by Pratham Education Foundation. So Alina, before we dive into the training, why don't we discuss that today on the first day, what will be our agenda of the training?
Right, Sukriti. So, once again, a very warm welcome and a very good morning to all the teachers who have joined us today for this training. Today is day one of our training session. Let's start with, talking about what are the topics that we are going to cover in today's training. So, as you can see on our screen, we are going to talk about the day one agenda. So, the first point, the first topic, the first concept that we are going to discuss is a framework for remote teaching. So as we all know that from the past few months we are into this situation of remote teaching where teachers are teaching online and students are studying and learning and attending classes online. So a framework can give make a lot of difference in that area. So this is one concept that one topic that we are going to cover. Then second is planning according to child's home learning environment. So as we know that for in order to start any concept, in order to start teaching a class, planning is a very important part there. Planning plays a huge role. So planning according to the child's environment, that is also something that we are going to discuss in detail. Then third element here is parent engagement. So as we know that these days students are spending a lot of time with their parents, so their here collaboration with parents can play a huge role. Next topic that we are going to cover is interdisciplinary project for teaching children remotely, that how teachers can give interdisciplinary project to enhance knowledge of through one project. Knowledge of different topics can be enhanced through these projects. And then we will also take our teachers to Gurushala's content library. And then we also have a task, day one task for all our teachers. So this is Sukriti. These are some topics that we are going to cover today in today's training. So let's move ahead and tell our teachers what are some before starting the training. Let's tell our teachers what are some of the points that we insist they keep on mind during the training.
Yes, Alina. So, teachers, there are a few things that you should keep in mind throughout the training. This will enhance your process of the training as well. So, the first thing is that you can keep a notepad with you where you can make notes of ideas and questions. This will make it easier for you to refer back to the ideas that we are talking about and also the question and answers that we're taking up during the training session, so that later on while you're teaching you can refer to these notes. Also the video will be available on our website, but having your own notes is always helpful, so we would suggest that you keep a notepad and make notes of all the ideas and questions discussed during the training. The second thing is that type your question, answers, and ideas in the chat box of YouTube. So, whatever ideas you do have during the training, or whatever questions you do have for us for Gurushala, please type it in the chat box. We will definitely try to answer as much as we can, and we will try to take up your ideas on screen as well. So, we want this training to be as engaging as possible. So keep sharing your ideas with us, because we are very excited to take up all of your ideas as well. Thirdly, you have to sign up on Gurushala for regular updates on training, workshops, and competitions. As we know, many of you have already signed up on Gurushala, but for those of you who have not, do remember that to log into www.gurushala.co and sign up there with, as you can see on the screen, there is an arrow with a box shown. Once you click on that, You will be able to sign into Gurushala with your Google account or your Facebook account or your mobile number. We will also show you a demonstration during the training of how you can do this. But stay in touch with us through Gurushala's website so you can know about future trainings, workshops, and competitions as well. And finally, there will be a certificate of participation which will be given to all the teachers who are participating in this 2-day training. At the end of tomorrow's session, a Google form will be shared with all of you for attendance. Once you fill the attendance form, we will be sending across your certificate of participation on email within 7 to 10 working days after the training. So moving ahead, Alina, there are a few activities also that we will be doing today. So why don't you tell us what this is about?
Sure, Sukriti. So here, before we move ahead into our training and start our day with one activity for our teachers, I would like to request all the teachers who are joining us to introduce themselves in the comment section with us. So as we can see, teachers have started, wishing good morning to each other and to us as well. So once again, a very good morning. We would also request all the teachers to introduce themselves so that we can also know that, from which district they have joined us. So yeah, so Kriti, let's move ahead in our training. And as you said earlier, that we will start our day with a very short and an interesting activity for our teachers. So here, before that, I would like to tell that during this course of training, we will be engaging with our teachers in three different activities. First is guess the answer. So as you can see, that you'll have to guess the answer of a question or probably a clue. We'll see to that. And then second is fastest fingers first. So here the teachers will be given a limited period of time, and they will have to answer it in fastly. They'll have to answer. And then a third activity will be audience poll, where we will ask a question and teachers will share their opinion on it, that which option is their preferred option. So Sukriti, let's move to our first activity of the day. And the first activity of our day is guess the answer. So let's see what teachers have to do and how teachers can participate in this activity with us. So they, in this activity, they will be given some clues. So teachers, we will be giving you some clues through this image, and you will have to guess the name of this famous personality. And whatever your answer is, you have to type your answer in the chat section. Right, and for this you will be given 1 minute. So let me just give you some clues and see how many teachers can answer this question. So I'm just going to remove one or two blocks here. So I hope that teachers can see. And the timer for this activity has also started. So I would request all the teachers to try and guess who this personality is, who this famous personality is, and share their preferred answer with us in the comment section. So
Yes, Alina.
yeah, I'm just going to remove one more block here and see if some teachers can start guessing, right?
Yes, Alina. So, teachers, type your answer in the chat section. You have 50 seconds more to go. The timer is already on. We want to know that can you guess who this famous personality is, which you can see on the screen. I can also see that a lot of teachers have already started sharing who they think it is, and most of the teachers are getting the answer right. But for the other teachers, you still have 25 seconds to go, and if you think this is somebody else or whoever you feel this famous personality is, please share with us in the comment section.
Right. So, Sukriti, we can see that a lot of answers are coming here in the chat section with us. So, let me just try and remove two more blocks and see what is the answer. So, I think the answer is pretty clear now. So, let's just see what the answer is. So, yes, all our teachers who have shared their answers with us, they are correct. So, congratulations to all the teachers who participated in the activity. You were correct. So, Sukriti, let's move ahead and start our training with, talking about the challenges that teachers are facing while teaching remotely. So, as we know that over the past few months, there has been a shift from the traditional classroom, the traditional offline classroom, to online classrooms or virtual classrooms. So there, in this scenario, there were teachers who were facing a lot of challenges. So let's just talk about a few challenges and how we can discuss the possible solutions of these.
Yes, Alina. So, teachers, like we all know that in the past year, a lot of changes have come with respect to our teaching because of the pandemic. A lot of new strategies had to be taken on. So, a lot of teachers have faced a lot of challenges during the lockdown. And since Gurushala is connected with over 53,000 teachers, there are all our teachers have been constantly sharing with us what are the challenges they are facing, and we accordingly try to meet their needs. We try to conduct our trainings according to the needs that they want fulfilled. We try to provide content with respect to what they are facing. So let's see some of the challenges that teachers across the country have shared with us that they are facing during the lockdown period. So as we can see, some teachers are facing a challenge that how can they plan their teaching material and methods for remote learning by students, because conventionally we are used to teaching in classrooms, and we have been sharing teaching material and using methods and strategies according to that very need of teaching in a physical classroom. But this sudden change of having to inevitably use remote teaching to reach out to your students suddenly has left a lot of teachers confused that what kind of teaching material then can they be sharing with their students, what kind of methods they can be using for remote learning, so that no student falls back because of lack of accessibility or because of a teaching strategy that may not work in online teaching as well as it does in classrooms. A second challenge that a lot of teachers have been facing is how can they ensure that students are engaged in online classroom. So as we know that in a physical classroom, it is easy to grab the attention of a student and also be aware of students who are not paying attention. But when you are teaching remotely, it becomes a little difficult to engage students in the class. And more than in class, it becomes difficult to ensure that students are constantly engaging with concepts and with learning material as such, because teachers are not spending as much time with students as they used to. So this is another challenge that a lot of teachers have shared with us. Thirdly, teachers have shared with us that they want to know that how can they monitor how much students are able to learn at home, because teachers might be able to share teaching material or change their methods with changing times, but sometimes it becomes difficult to assess whether these strategies are working or not, and whether your students are actually learning from the material that you are sharing remotely. When you are in a physical space, when you're sharing physical space with your students, it is easier to assess them, it's easier to understand the different learning levels of students. But when it's online, it becomes a little difficult, especially because due to lack of accessibility and other such issues, a lot of learning levels are different among different students in the same classroom. Finally, teachers have asked us that what types of activities can they give to secondary school students at home to learn concepts, because now majority of the time spent by students is at home. So teachers are looking for new activities and new kinds of projects that they can provide to their students, which can be performed at home. In schools, usually there is a lot of teaching material available. There is with respect to needs of learning and education itself, there is a lot of tools available, but maybe at a student's home, the environment is that of a home and not of a school. So it becomes a little difficult to think of what kind of activities can be provided so that students are learning effectively. So teachers today, taking in consideration all these challenges which have been shared with us by a lot of teachers across the country, we will be looking at some of these challenges, and we will be looking at some of the solutions, some of the strategies that can be used to tackle these challenges which teachers have faced during the lockdown.
Right, Sukriti. So here we have talked about some challenges that teachers are facing during while teaching remotely. So let's move ahead and talk about a framework that can be used for teaching remotely. So as we have seen that there are some challenges like teaching, like creating and sharing teaching learning material, or how can assessment be conducted, or how to enhance student engagement. So a framework always plays an important role, and a framework can make a lot of difference to this whole process of teaching remotely. So Sukriti, let's move ahead and share some ideas about this framework for teaching remotely with our teachers who have joined us here.
Definitely, Alina. So, like Alina said, that for remote teaching, there can be a lot of ideas available over the internet which you can use. But when teachers have a particular framework which they can use for remote teaching, it becomes easier for them to then fit in their subjects or their concepts within that framework. Which is why today Gurushala is bringing to you a framework which you can use while teaching remotely. So, this framework is called the ICI framework. Step by step, we will see what this framework is. So, the first step of this framework is I, which is identify. What we mean by the first step, which is identify, is that teachers first need to know what are the needs of students, because as you know there are a lot of changes now, considering the past year that we have seen in the needs of students itself. There is a lot of challenges that students are facing as well with respect to their academics as well as personally. So we need to keep all of this in mind and identify that our that what are these needs that we need to fulfill for students. Secondly, it is important to identify that who are the different stakeholders who can be involved in a student's learning process. As we know that when you are in school, the main stakeholders involved are the teachers and their peer. But when a student is learning maximum of their time at home, there can be a lot more stakeholders involved in the learning process of a student. So teachers need to identify who these different stakeholders are and how they can build engagement among them. So it could be the family, it could be the parents, the community, it could be their friends as well. So teachers need to understand that apart from themselves, who are these different stakeholders that they can build engagement with, and they need to keep this identified. Finally, they need to identify a way of developing different strategies, because in remote learning, a lot of strategies that we do use in classroom learning also work, but a lot of times they don't. So teachers need to identify that what are the different strategies available, what are the different strategies that can be used for teaching remotely. For instance, this is one strategy, the ICI strategy. There is another strategy which we will be talking about tomorrow as well. And towards the end of this training as well, we will be talking about one more strategy. So you need to, in the same way, these are three strategies, there may be multiple more, and teachers need to identify what these strategies are. So, Alina, the second step of our framework for remote teaching is create. After identifying the different things, teachers need to now create the kind of resources which can be used for, and teaching strategies which can be used for teaching remotely. So, firstly, teachers need to explore different resources. So the different resources which can be shared online or which can be even shared offline, but can be shared with students at a distance, because now we are not in classroom. So teachers need to explore these different resources which can be used. Then they need to map different teaching strategies. So identifying teaching strategies is one thing, that you identify that these are the multiple ones available, but mapping them is another thing. So certain strategies may work for particular subjects and they may not work for others, or they may work for a particular level of classes and not work for another. So then teachers need to create this strategy, map them according to the needs of their students and their classroom. And finally, they need to build self growth and learning. What this means is that after identifying that what are the needs of students, you need to realize that right now, this year has taught us that it is very important to keep many more things in mind while teaching students, apart from just academic learning. So apart from subject teaching, we need to ensure that students are given the kind of life skills which are required to face their day to day challenges and face unpredictable situations. So accordingly, teachers have to create a strategy where they know that the student is growing holistically. Finally, in the ICI framework, the last step is implement. So now teachers have identified the needs of students, they have identified stakeholders and strategies, they have also created their strategies and created different resources. Now they need to implement all the work they have done is to ultimately implement these ideas into their classroom. So in this, they need to understand whether the concepts they are teaching to students, are they actually understanding it or not. And they need to monitor students growth, and if they feel that with their teaching strategies the child is not growing, they may be only rote learning or they may be not understanding concepts very well, then they need to devise corrective measures, which is why the first step then again becomes important, where you identify many teaching strategies. You may implement one of them, they may not work, so then you implement another and try. So all of this then helps us to reach the kind of perfect strategy which would help us to our students to ultimately grow into responsible adults who are academically sound, as well as personally grown to a good into a good citizen. So this, Alina, is one of the frameworks which I hope that our teachers will try to implement during their teaching remotely. So
Right,
yes, Alina.
Sukriti. So, Sukriti, on our screen here, we have a framework that you have just explained in detail to our teachers, which is ICI, that talks about identify, create, and implement. So, if we quickly summarize this, identifies identifying the needs of the student, and then creating is exploring and creating different resources, keeping those needs in mind, and then implementing is to basically to implement the strategies that as a teacher I have just researched or I have just learned about, and to see which strategy is working with my students or not. So this was one framework that we will keep in mind throughout this training, and of course after that as well. So moving ahead, we move ahead, there's just one thing that I want to request to our teachers, that feel free to ask your questions in the comment section with us, and also we would encourage you to drop your suggestions in the comment section. How do you use these strategies? Because Sukriti, if we see some aspects in this framework is something that our teachers might already be using, creating their resources, sharing, so they can also share with us how they have been using this framework, if they have been using or not. So these are some suggestions that we that are welcome, and feel free to ask your questions with us. So let's move ahead and move to our next topic. So our next topic is identifying about the needs of the students, right?
Yes, Alina. So we have understood what the framework is. We've seen the theoretical aspect of it, that what this framework entails, and how different teachers teaching different subjects at different levels can, within this framework, fit in their teaching strategy. Now, let's go step by step and see some of the different ways that teachers can actually implement this framework, can actually fit in by using different activities, by creating different resources where they can find them. So let's see the application of this framework. So Alina, the first step is identify. So let's see how teachers would engage with this step.
Right. So, Sukriti, here we are talking about remote teaching, right? So, while initiating any process, the first step is planning. So like in teaching also, planning plays an important role. So while planning, and especially in this situation where students are in different types of environment, as a teacher it becomes very important that I have a larger understanding of the environment of all the students, because accordingly I can collate and create resources. So here, as we can see on our screen, there is a teacher, and her concern is that it is very important to understand the learning environment of your students, because sometimes some teaching practices tend not to work if the child doesn't have the right environment. So it is really important to understand the environment of the child, and even the physical environment, because of the resources, that how much internet accessibility is there, how many resources are there available. So regarding this, we have a checklist that we would like to suggest to our teachers. So let's just move and talk about this checklist. So this checklist largely talks about knowing the learning environment at your students' home. We know that your teachers are probably in schools or at their own homes, and students are at their homes, right? So as a teacher, this is one checklist that we are going to talk about, which can help them to understand, to know about the learning environment of their students. So here are some parameters that can help to map the learning environment of students at their home. So here, as we can see on our screen, these three parameters are technology, supervision, and materials. So these three parameters are very important for a smooth class, a smooth online class. So first is technology. As we know that in online teaching, technology has played a major role, and to some extent it has become really important as well, that accessibility of technology, at least a little bit of accessibility has become important to access the learning material and to communicate with the teachers and with fellow students as well. And then if we talk about second element, that is supervision. So as we know, and we have discussed earlier as well, that we know that these days students are spending most of their times with their parents at home, or probably their elder siblings, or uh, their guardians, and not with teachers like in traditional scenarios. So here, this is one important area where, as teachers, we can leverage this opportunity, and we can utilize this opportunity and collaborate with parents or their guardians to make the whole teaching learning process easier and more smooth. And then third parameter is that of materials. So as we know that while teaching, a teacher usually uh, teaches through a material. It can be a textbook, it can be a video, it can be a PowerPoint presentation, it can be uh, a document with notes of any chapter, right? So these are three parameters that are very crucial and important for the for smooth conduction of the online classes.
Yes, Alina. So this is one of the ways that teachers can identify the needs of a student by mapping their home learning environment. So, Alina, you've explained to us that the three things which are really important that teachers can map while understanding student needs. That is technology, supervision, and material. But could you also explain to our teachers how can they map these different aspects of our students' home learning environment to then create their strategy?
Right, Sukriti, a very interesting question indeed, because if we think that our teachers must also be thinking that we agree all of these parameters are very important and crucial for online teaching, remote teaching, but how can I, you know, understand, how can I map that how many students have these accessibility to these parameters or not? So let's just move ahead and talk about these. So if we see that through a larger understanding of how much, to what, or to what extent the technology is available at our students end, is that you can use it through you can use it like this, that if the smartphone availability or internet accessibility is high, then you can give teaching materials which can be easily accessible through a smartphone. For example, if 80% of your students have access to a computer, then you can share teaching materials which can be easily viewed and submitted through a computer. But if they do not have, if they have a simple feature phone, then we will have to think about certain strategies or certain materials that students will that students can easily access through their feature phones. Moving ahead, if we talk about supervision, so supervision, like we talked about, is very important. So if there is high supervision available at students end, for example, if there are elder siblings or guardians or parents who are present to help students in their studies, so then you can give teaching materials or questions or assessment tests, or even projects that involve supervision by parents to some extent. And if that is not there, then you will have to emphasize on the self study element. You will have to emphasize on you will have to give projects and teaching learning material that students can do on their own, and they can collate and write down their questions and come back and share with you. Then third element, if we talk about, is that of materials. So like we know that materials are very crucial. We usually, as teachers and for students as well, we usually recommend to keep some notebooks or some textbooks or a video hand with them, so that they can understand the concept in a better way. So if textbooks, worksheets, or other teaching learning materials are available at students' end, so you can give questions, you can explain topics with the help of those teaching learning material. And if they are not available, if only textbook is available, then you can use snapshots of those textbook and guide students that on this page number you can explore this topic. Right now I'm talking about page number 12. So these are just quick examples that we are going here. So Sukriti, if we see on our screen here, we have a checklist which helps us understand about the learning environment of the student at their homes. And here, this checklist covers three major parameters, which are technology, supervision, and materials. So as a teacher, what I need to do is I need to have a larger understanding of how to what extent these parameters are available and accessible to my students, and accordingly I can share my teaching learning material. Accordingly, I can give projects and assessment tests to my students. So, Kriti, before we move ahead to our next topic, here is one suggestion that we would like to acknowledge. Our teacher Ason Honggang has shared with us that learning environment really has an impact in students' learning process, be it positively or negatively. We completely agree with you, ma'am, because like we are also talking about it, that learning environment has a huge impact. Because for example, let's just, because ma'am has also talked about it can even have a negative impact in that sense. So for example, if as a teacher we do not know about the learning environment of the student, for example 80% of my students, they do not have accessibility to teaching learning materials, and I have been giving them resources according to that. So this is something that can to some extent create a miscommunication and a misunderstanding, and students might not understand the concept clearly. So this is just one suggestion that teachers can take and implement this checklist in their classes.
Definitely, Alina. So now we've understood the step identify. We've understood it with with an example, that what are the different things that you should be identifying when you try to understand a student's home environment and accordingly create your strategies. Once again, I would like to emphasize that I hope teachers are making a note of these things so that they can then refer back to their notes when they have to implement teaching strategies. So, Alina, now before we go further into our training, let's do the second activity for the day with our teachers. So, teachers, the second activity for the day is fastest fingers first, and we hope you are ready for this activity. So the timer will start now, and as you can see, there is a question on your screen, which is, tell us three ways parents can help their children study during remote learning. We know that parents play a very important role during this period, during this lockdown period, and will continue to play a very important role even post lockdown because of the hybrid classroom situation. So please share with us three ways that parents can help their children in studying during remote learning. You have 30 seconds more to share with us. Even if you want to share with us one way or two ways and not three ways, but do share with us in the chat section. You have 20 seconds more, and you can share with us the different ideas that you feel that parents can participate effectively in students' learning.
Right, Sukriti. So as we can see on our screen, we have some suggestions from our teachers as well. One teacher's saying that parents can encourage the students to study better and to attend their classes and adhere to the suggestions given by the teacher. And we have a lot of suggestions with us here. Another suggestion coming our way is to supervise that supervise and to make a provide a calm home environment. A very interesting suggestion indeed. Thank you so much, because this is one element that we can't emphasize enough, that a calm and a calm learning environment is very important for student to attend online classes and also for self study. Another suggestion that we have here is to check their notes on time, because in this scenario, the process where teachers can have a look at their students and keep a check on their students, that whether they are preparing notes or not, this is something that is not being possible to a large extent here. So parents can uh, play a role here and help student teachers and their kids in that. Another suggestion here is guide and supervise and time management. So Sukriti, if we summarize what the suggestions we are receiving from our teachers, supervision is definitely one important role there, that especially for younger students, supervision by their parents or guardians or elder members at their homes plays an important role. And then another is to guide them, to encourage them to attend online classes, to submit their assessments in time, because in this whole situation sometimes the students might feel discouraged, sometimes there might be some elements that they are missing. So a continuous cycle of supervision and guidance might make a lot of difference here. Another suggestion that we are receiving here uh, is to ensure the learning, and then guidance, monitor and encourage. So once again, thank you, teachers. We have received a lot of suggestions here in the comment section, so thanks a lot for sharing your suggestions with us. We
Yes, Alina.
agree to most of the suggestions. And Sukriti, let's move ahead and talk about our next topic.
Yes, Alina. But before we move ahead, I would like to thank all our teachers for sharing their suggestions. And one of the suggestions which I saw was that that parents can create space for learning, guide, and support. So I really thank our teachers for this. This is a very good idea, because one thing that is very important is that the children are provided the support. And another very interesting idea which came was to provide a calm environment at home, because students as well are finding it difficult to deal with the situation, and it is important that students are not put in a stressful environment at home, but rather the environment at home should be calm and should be peaceful. And as adults, it is important for teachers as well as parents to create this kind of environment so students can learn better and have the right environment to grow personally as well as academically. And another suggestion was that parents should give consistent supervision and guidance with proper study time. We definitely agree with this as well, that a timetable can be created by parents so that a proper study time can be allocated for students to study, so that they are also engaging in other activities for their own growth. So thank you to very much teachers for participating so actively with us in this activity. We are really grateful for your ideas, and we also hope that all the teachers who have joined us today will use some of these ideas to ensure parents engage with students. So moving ahead, Alina, one of the other things that we spoke about in the identify step was to identify how different stakeholders can be involved whilst students studying at home, which is what our activity was related to as well. So Alina, let's see that what can parents do to help students study at home.
Right, Sukriti. So, like our teachers here who have joined us here today, they have also shared with us their suggestions. So, let's just move ahead and talk a bit more about that. That how, in this scenario of remote teaching, in this scenario of online teaching, how different stakeholders can be involved. And one major stakeholder here is the parents of the students themselves. So, first important element here is to provide an appropriate learning space, which all our teachers have already emphasized, that as parents, uh, parents should provide a proper and an appropriate learning space where students have proper where students can study and attend online classes with proper concentration, and we can ensure that there is no distraction available in that space, no noise or TV, or younger siblings are there, at least during the time of attending online classes. So this is one key element which talks about providing appropriate learning space. Moving ahead, another crucial element here is to ensure that the students are taking notes during their classes and while self studying as well. So as we know that notes have always been helpful, not only to sort of summarize what we have studied, but also they help a lot in the whole process of revision. So as parents, parents can keep emphasizing on this element. They can make sure that the before attending the online class, the student has a notebook and a pen available with him or her, so that he can take down the notes during the online classes. And then they can also keep a check on those notes, that whether those notes are in a proper manner, whether they are understandable or not, whether they're accessible after, whether they'll be available after a certain point of time or not. So this is one element that can be considered by the parents. And then if we move ahead and talk about third element, that is be aware of a teaching plan. So this is very important point, that we can make sure that parents can themselves create a teaching plan, or as teachers also we can create a teaching plan and share it with the parents of our students. It can be a teaching plan, we can share it on a weekly basis, we can also share it on a daily basis. So what teachers can do sometimes is, for example, if as a teacher I want to share it on a daily basis, so usually there is a group where teachers are connected with the parents of students as well, so they can share what the topics they are going to cover in today's class in that group with all the parents. So likewise, so in this manner all the parents are aware about what all topics are going to be covered in today's class, and accordingly they can help their students to be prepared about those. So this is one thing. And when we are talking about collaborating with parents, so a regular conversation with these parents, a communication cycle is very important, because here parents are the ones who are spending most of the time with their students, right? So they know about their studying habit, they know about their other habits as well, which can play an important role in the whole learning process of students. So on a regular period of time we can keep asking the parents about their insights as well, that how what the progress is about that child. So Sukriti, can we move ahead and talk about the fourth point, which is important here?
Yes, Alina. So some of our teachers also shared this point as well, that what parents can do to help students study at home is ensure accountability for homework. So because this is homework, and this is something that students are doing at home, it's important that apart from the engagement that they are having with teachers in online classes, once they go off online classes, or once they go back home, if they are in physical classrooms as well, they need parents can be involved in understanding that how the child completes homework, and how they are participating, how they are referring to textbook or digital content. So ensuring that the child also learns to be accountable for their own homework, not just parent involvement in a way that they are responsible for the homework, but ensuring that the child learns that to be accountable for their own homework, to be an independent learner, is one of the qualities that parents can introduce among children. And finally, coming to the last step, Alina, it is to ensure holistic development of the child. So like a lot of our teachers were also sharing with us during the activity, that it is important that the parents create a proper study time for their students. So they can create a timetable for their students, for their children, to ensure that the student is having a balanced engagement with learning, because too much of anything is not good. So parents can ensure that children are not only engaging in homework and classwork effectively, but also engaging in other activities which will help them grow otherwise. So these are some of the things that parents can do to help to help students study at home. Also, Alina, I can see that one of our teachers has said that it's important for parents to counsel students, counsel their children. We absolutely agree with you, because it's important that parents sit down and have conversations with their children and counsel them and help them. And also, some of our teachers have shared that it's important to motivate children. So parents, since they are spending majority of the time with their children, they can ensure that they are providing them that kind of motivation as well as counseling, with which a lot of children need, especially in these tough times. So yes, Alina, these are some of the points that we can see that parents can do to help students at home. So this is where we come to an end of our first step, which is identify, where we understood how to identify the different stakeholders as well as identify needs of students, especially while remote teaching, which is when students are spending majority of their time at home and with their parents. Coming to the second step, Alina, which is create, where we spoke about how teachers can explore different kind of resources and can explore different new ideas rather than using one set of conventional ideas. They can use different pedagogic strategies. They can use new tools and technology, new content to create the kind of teaching strategy, as well as create a lesson plan which students will engage with in an effective manner, as well as have fun while learning. So, Alina, in this point, one of the things that a lot of our teachers can do is explore the different content resources on Gurushala. So, Alina, why don't we take our teachers to Gurushala's content library and show them what are the different kind of resources which they can use, also what are the different kind of resources that they can get an idea from to create their own resources and share with us as well as with their students.
Right, Sukriti. So here, when we are talking about sharing and collating and creating resources and sharing with teachers, so here Gurushala can play an important role. So as you can see on our screen, we are here on Gurushala's home screen. So I would like to tell teachers how they can visit Gurushala portal. So you simply have to visit to www.gurushala.co. So we will also share this link with all our teachers in the chat section, and they can also note it down if they want, because we are going to show how teachers can use Gurushala for their different needs and their different situations. So here, let me take you to Gurushala. So as you can see, this is Gurushala's home page. You have to visit www.gurushala.co. And the very first thing that we suggest you do is to first sign up if you're a new user, and if you have already signed in, then you can log in. So here, since I'm already a registered user, I'm going to log in with my Gmail ID. And as you can see, I am here. I have now logged in. And here you have to click on Gurushala logo. And when you'll click here, so you will be directed to Gurushala's homepage. So as you can see, this is how Gurushala's homepage looks like. And here are some features that Gurushala offers. So let's just talk about what are those features that Gurushala offers. So first is course modules. So course modules are these self-paced course modules which teachers can do. So this is one interesting element, that these are courses. These are course modules which are here for our teachers. They can come and visit this section, enroll themselves to these courses and these modules, and complete these modules. And they, after completing each module, they will also get a certificate. Now, what are these courses about? What are these modules about? These modules are about daily life challenges that these teachers, that all of us face as teachers, right? So for example, if it's a problem of content creation, so we have modules on that. If it's a problem of how can I conduct assessments in how can I conduct assessments? That is also a module here. So I would suggest that all the teachers who want to explore possible solutions to their challenges or want to get certificates for their these modules, they can visit gurushala.co and visit this course module section. Then second section here is that of content library. Content library here on Gurushala is like a digital content library where resources uh, of different types are available and on for different classes and different subjects. So we will just in a moment we'll just go there and explore that in a while. Before that, let me move and tell you briefly about other features so that if you want to explore these features after this today's training, you can go ahead and do that. Then third element here is that of online training and webinars. So in this section, we so regularly we conduct a lot of live events with our teachers. So one is this, that today's training is also one such example of these live events. So similarly, we conduct a lot of workshops and webinars on different topics with our teachers. So here in this section, the third section, which is of online training and webinars, all the videos of those sessions are there, so teachers can visit this section and watch videos of on these topics. Then the fourth element here is that of a staff room. So staff room is like a virtual staff room where teachers can come and get connected with teachers from different states of India and share their experiences, their memories, and their issues. So in staff room, we have seen that teachers, especially during the scenario where they are teaching from their homes and teaching remotely, teachers visit Gurushala's virtual staff room. They share their challenges, they share their concerns, and other teachers with varied years of experiences give answers and share their own experiences. So this is another important area that this is a virtual staff room that teachers can be a part of. Then we also have a page for competitions. So these competitions, they are for teachers. Teachers can come and attend these competitions and see how much they know about the respective topics. Then our sixth element here is that of express yourself. So express yourself is basically a blog. So it's a Gurushala blog where we have a lot of elements for you. So you can simply, whenever you want to take a break from your teaching and learning process, you can come to gurushala.co, log into gurushala.co, and visit this express yourself section. So these are some six major features of Gurushala. So Sukriti, why don't we visit Gurushala's content library? Because here we are talking about creation, right? So content resources play an important role here. So we will just visit. So in order to visit content library, you can simply click on this feature here and you will be directed to Gurushala's content library.
Yes, Alina. So, like I can see on the screen, and a lot of our teachers, all our teachers can also see, there are multiple content resources available on Gurushala, which they can not only use directly for their classrooms, but also get ideas from to create their own kind of resources. So, Alina, on the content library page, I can see that there is an option of filter. Could you explain to our teachers what this option is and how they can filter these content resources according to their needs and their students' needs and requirements?
Right. So Kriti, before we talk about the filters available here, I would just like to tell all our teachers who have joined us today that in this Gurushala content library, there are a lot of resources. There are around more than 22,000 resources available here, and in these resources, some resources are created by Gurushala itself, and some resources have been, we have partnered with some content creators, content collaborators, and their resources are also available on the Gurushala portal. So you can access these resources. Now, coming to your question, Sukriti, where you were asking about filters. So, right, that's a very important question. That as a teacher, when I will visit Gurushala, I would want to, for example, I would want resources for a certain class. For example, I'm a teacher of class 9, so I would want resources for those classes, right? So I will right, Sukriti. So Sukriti, can we talk about these filters?
Yes, Yes, Alina. So, like I can see on my screen, there are multiple different filters available. And like you mentioned, we have over 22,000 content resources for our teachers. So, it might be, for teachers to go through 22,000 resources to find the resource they need might be a difficult task, which is why Gurushala has made this much easier for you by providing different filters on the content library that teachers can use. So the first filter I can see is the subject filter. So different teachers teaching different subjects, for instance, biology, computers, chemistry, English, environment studies, even general knowledge, or just fun stories sometimes to create a little break from your academic learning. There are different subjects available here, even health and safety, which is so important, especially in these times. So these are the different kind of filters, and there are of course many more which you can go and explore by yourself. Another filter
Right.
that I can see, Alina, is the filter for classes. Alina, would you like to tell us how teachers can filter the resources according to classes?
Right, Sukriti. So here we have seen that subject filter is available. Then we also have class filter, and here we can click on show more, and all of these filters will appear. Then we all after classes we also have filter for content type. So as we know that as teachers sometimes we want to share a concept video or a lecture video with our students, but sometimes we want to share an assessment or for example a worksheet with our students. So, keeping all of this in mind, we have a lot of content type available here. As you can see, animated videos are here, assessment uh, content type is here, case study, challenge question, chapter quiz. So, all of these resources are here. Then there are other filters as well, which I hope that teachers today will, explore for themselves. So, Sukriti, let's just move ahead and show our teachers how they can open one such resource and, how they can filter it and then open one of these resources of their choice. So, for example, we were talking about higher classes here. So, first of all, I want to show to my students a concept video. So, I will click on this. So, as you can see, concept video filter यहाँ पर लग गया है. Then we will talk about I want to put a filter for class ninth. So I have just clicked here. So now I have selected two filters. One is that of concept video and for class ninth. So I would just scroll. So as you can see, these resources are concept videos and for class ninth. So I will just explore and see which resource I want to open. So this is one resource titled Constructing the Perpendicular Bisector of the Given Line. So I will just click on it. And when I've clicked on it, so you can see it has opened like this. So now I have to click on View Resource. And as you can see that the video has started.
Hello, friends. Welcome to this session on constructions. In previous session, we learned how to construct the bisector of a given angle and also gave proof that the construction we made is right. In this session, we will learn to construct a perpendicular bisector of a line segment and will prove that the construction is correct. Let's assume we have to construct perpendicular bisector of PQ. So let's start the construction. The steps for this construction are as follows. With the help of scale and pencil, draw a line segment. Let's name this line segment as PQ. Now taking a measurement of more than half of the line PQ, place the pointed end of the compass on P and draw an arc above and below PQ. Now without changing the measurement, place same pointed point on Q and draw arc below and above PQ in such a way that they will intersect previously drawn arc. Note that measurements of radius from point P.
So, Sukriti, like we just saw that, in this manner, teachers can view resources of their choice. So, let's just go one step back and explore other resources. So, if I select here, so here I want to select another type of resources. So why not show infographics? So Sukriti, like we know that sometimes infographics help us in summarizing the concept, summarizing, in simplifying complex information into simple steps, and it also helps in revision. So while as teachers we create content resources, sometimes we also share infographics because students can in that with the help of that one simple infographic the whole information about that concept is conveyed. So what I want to do here is I want to select the content type of infographic. So I'm just selecting, as you can see I've selected infographic type, and now I want it for a subject. For example, let's say I want it for geography, so I've selected geography subject. So if you can see, the resources are available here. So what I will do is I will just click on this. For example, I want to access this resources which is about a chapter of class 10th of geography, which talks about renewable and non-renewable resources. So I've just clicked on it and the resource will open some like this. So as you can see, soon the resource will open, and there are other resources as well. So there are resources on means of transport, and there are resources on India, size and its location as well. So Socrates, like this, our teachers can use these resources. And as we can see, a lot of uh, comments are also there.
Yes, Alina. So this way, the content library provides you the different filters, like Alina showed us. So at first, she showed us a concept video. So there are these kind of videos that you can use, or even make such videos. And also another thing that Alina showed us is that there are other filters that you can use, other kind of resources like an infographic. So an infographic makes it really easy to make complex ideas simple, and it's a good way of revision as well. And Alina, like I can see there are really nice comments that are being shared by our teachers. So one question which has come up since we were talking about parents involvement earlier is that one of our teachers is saying that the problem here is that parents don't have time for their children, and if we encourage also, they do not participate. So in that case, we would there are a few things which teachers can keep in mind. The first is that parents need not be the only stakeholders involved in a student's learning environment. Of course, teachers will always continue to play the most important role. Other than that, their own peers also play a very important role. So yeah, it's not necessary that only parents engagement is important. We understand that a lot of parents have their own responsibilities to take care of and may not be able to be actively involved in a student's learning environment. But we can look for other sources, other stakeholders. For instance, their other community members, maybe grandparents who are at home and can help, or maybe other students as well, their friends who could help each other. A friend with a little better understanding of concepts could help another group of children who are not doing that well academically. So there are different stakeholders that you can identify. And another thing that I would suggest is that uh, sometimes it may be a little difficult to get through parents, but as teachers, it is our responsibility to ensure that we go to the farthest length to ensure that our students are learning well. So it is our duty that we try to get through to parents, maybe hold weekly meetings with parents, maybe speak to parents on the phone and ask them that even if they could give around 20 to 30 minutes a day for their students learning. In that way, I'm sure that at some point we would be able to get through even parents who might be a little difficult to get through. Then
Right.
Yes, Alina.
Right, Sukriti. So, Sukriti, here in comment section, we also have some questions. So, Ram Shankar Pandey ji has asked that kindly show us for Hindi project. And then Fongni teacher has asked that any tips for political science. So I just want to take a moment and tell these teachers that, if you can see on our screen, here is this filter for subject. So accordingly, you can select any filter. So for example, if I want to select the filter of Hindi, I've just selected that, and resources of Hindi has appeared here. Right? So you can open any of these resource, and then you can click on it and view it, right? So Sukriti, likewise, um, we were just discussing about infographics, right? So I would just like to take a moment here and show them infographics. So like I was explaining, you can go to the filter of content type, select the filter of infographic, right? And then, for example, I want to show it for geography. So I've selected geography here, and it has opened like this. And now I've clicked on this topic of means of transport, and it has opened. And like we discussed, I will click on view resource, and it will appear something like this. So if you can see on our screen, an infographic is basically an image with the help of which you can convey a complex information in simple manner. So this is about the different means of transport, which has been explained through a simple diagram. So likewise, you can use content library for your needs. You can use content library for different subjects. And coming back to these questions, so there are content resources available for Hindi subject as well, Ram Shankar Pandey sir, and on political science as well.
Yes, Alina. So, teachers, that way there are different filters, and we would encourage all of you to explore the content library yourself as well today to see how there are different kind of resources with different filters that you can use. And before moving ahead, Alina, I just want to take one more comment that one of our teachers has shared with us, which is that parents can collaborate with teachers so that teachers can help parents to understand their children's progress. This way, parents can be involved and help the child learn better. So, thank you so much, teacher, for sharing this idea with us. You are absolutely right. It's important for parents and teachers to have good communication among each other, especially in these times when we have realized that only a teacher's involvement in the child's education might be a little difficult, especially while teaching remotely. So it becomes important that parents as well make an effort to collaborate with teachers so that teachers can explain and help them. So we would suggest that we hold meetings with parents and explain to them why their involvement is necessary. So, Alina, now moving ahead, we showed our teachers that how they can use content resources from Guru Shala's library. Under the create section, another thing that becomes that Guru Shala always stresses on is using interdisciplinary projects. So this is one kind of resource which we feel is really important in students' education, because we see education as a very holistic growth strategy. Which is why we encourage teachers to use interdisciplinary projects for teaching their students. So, Alina, let's see what interdisciplinary projects are. So, interdisciplinary projects teachers are it basically means that subject teachers can plan together and design a set of activities for students which are common and cover their subject concepts. What this means is that rather than giving individual projects of individual subjects or only teaching concepts through a textbook teaching method or a monotonous lecture, what we can do is we can involve students in participating in project creation, in project activities, and a really important way of doing this is using interdisciplinary projects. So interdisciplinary projects means that you use different subject teachers come together and gives the student a project which helps the student to understand different subjects through one project itself. This not only increases collaboration among teachers, but it also helps students to engage with a particular concept for longer. So if we are just teaching through a textbook and just giving a monotonous lecture to a student, that student might just learn a particular concept to write it in the examination. But when the student is participating in project activities, not only is the student engaging with a particular concept for a long period of time, but also understanding how these different subjects can come together and be important for their life. So they can understand that through these projects, how the things being taught to them in school are not only to give an exam, but the things being taught to them are a life learning, and how these can be important for their day-to-day activities and for their life skills as well. So let's see, Alina, we've understood what an interdisciplinary project is. Let's see how we can create an interdisciplinary project. So the first step to create an interdisciplinary project is to identify a project. Like we always stress that it is important that first you do your planning and your identifying before you dive into any activity, as teachers as well as students. So Alina, let's see what the different steps are for identifying a project. So here, as you can see on your screen, there will be a checklist, and in this checklist there will be different options, among which even if 4 options are ticked in the checklist, you can go ahead with your project, whichever project you plan. So the first point that you can see is that the project should cover concepts related to 4 or 5 subjects. So when you are giving a particular project to your students, you should ensure that rather than just being one subject specific, this project covers at least 4 to 5 different subjects in one project itself. Second, the students should be able to find resources at home. So as we know that it's easy to find resources in school because the entire environment is created for educational growth of students. But sometimes at home, these same materials are not very easy to find. So what we can do is plan projects in a way where students can use resources already available for them at home. It should not be difficult for them to go and find the resources, because as teachers, it's our responsibility to make complex things more simple for them rather than making simple things more complex. The third point, as you can see, is that it should be related to the daily life of students. So the point of this interdisciplinary project is a holistic growth of a child. So the point is not only to teach an academic subject or a particular concept, but rather that this project teaches students not only life skills like time management and responsibility and independence, but also these projects are important so students can understand that their learning is of value to their life. Then the project can engage the family as well. So like some of our teachers shared that maybe not a lot of parents have time, but we can maybe try in this way by giving a kind of project in which parents involvement becomes important. This can be one of the ways that we can also get parents involved with students learning. Another point is that the project should allow the students learning of the past years. What this means is that the project that we give to a student, the project activity we give to a student, should not be only related to that year's learning and that year's subject specific concepts, but should include past year's learning as well. So any project we give, so for instance, we're giving a project to a 10th standard student, we can ensure that maybe some of the things they have learned in the 9th, 8th, 7th, or even before that, that is also included in this project, so that it's a kind of revision for students, and we are understanding that their learning is working effectively for them. And finally, the project should give the student a feeling of accomplishment on completion. So once the student is done with the project, there shouldn't be a feeling of relief that, oh, I'm finally done. It shouldn't be a stressful activity. Instead, the project should give the student a feeling of accomplishment. They should feel like what they have created is of value to them, to their education, and to their life. So as you can see, there are 4 or more ticks in these boxes, and we hope you are noting down these points as well. So if there are 4 or more ticks in this point with respect to any project that you have identified, then you can select that project. So Alina, we have seen that how we can identify a project, what kind of checklist we can use to identify a project. Why don't we see with an example that how this checklist can then be applied to a project type?
Right, Sukriti. So, when we are talking about an interdisciplinary project, the first step is how to identify a project. So, Sukriti, here you have explained in detail to our teachers that what are those things that they can keep in mind while identifying a project. So, let me just quickly explain it with the help of an example. So, for example, as a teacher, we are taking an example of making a medicinal garden. So, as we know that this is a common project that are often given to students during their summer vacations or during other holiday time as well, that students are asked to create, to make a medicinal garden in their homes. So we have taken the same example here. So let's understand what are the how the checklist fits into this example. So when we talk about this example of making a medicinal garden, as you can see on our screen, according to the checklist that Sukriti has just talked about, four points fit into this example, and there are 2 points which do not fit. So it's completely okay, because in the previous slide we talked about that at least four points should be covered in that project, because then it will convey that your project is wholesome, and it will convey the the essence of an interdisciplinary project. So as you can see, in a medicinal garden, it has concept related to 4 to 5 subjects. Moving ahead, we will see that how many subjects and what topics of different subjects are being covered in this project. Then second point is that students can find these resources available at home, as we know that plants and pots and gardens are usually available with students at their homes. And then third point is this concept, this example, or this project can be linked to the daily life of students. So I think that is completely relatable, because students can easily relate it to their daily lives, because we know that how useful and how useful plants are to us. And fourth point is parents can engage the project, can engage the family as well. So here students can utilize the understanding of their elders, because here elders might share their indigenous knowledge of various plants with the students here. And then 2 points which do not fit this category are that project should allow his or her learning of the past year. So probably this is one thing that is not being covered here. And then there is another topic, which another point, which is that the project should give the student a feel of accomplishment. So let's just talk about this example. In this example, 4 points are of this checklist are fitting into this example, and 2 points are not. So this was all about the first step, which is identifying a project, because before giving that project idea to students, we also need to identify a project as teachers, right? Then let's move ahead and talk about the second step, which is identifying activities in that project. So once you have identified what project I'm going to give, second step is going to be what are the activities, because we have just talked about guidance as well, right? So you will need to continuously guide your students that you can do these steps in this project. So Sukriti, can you tell our teachers what are those activities that they can use in this in the chosen project?
Yes, Alina. So now that you have identified a project, it becomes important to identify the activities of the chosen project, like Alina said. A few things that you can keep in mind while identifying activities is to plan the tasks well, to ensure that you're giving students 2 or 3 tasks a week, including a writing task. So a project activity shouldn't be one task, because then the whole purpose of a project dies out, because the purpose is that a student is engaging for a longer period with any concept. And also you should I feel we all feel that you should ensure a writing task, because writing helps students reflect better on anything that they are engaging with. And then it's necessary to make a list of these activities for students, because ultimately, like we mentioned before as well, our main agenda is to simplify things for students rather than making it complex. So once you have broken down these list of activities as well for students, rather than just giving an overarching theme of a project, it becomes easier for the student to understand as well as implement the project. So, Alina, we have seen what are the different points that the teachers can keep in mind while identifying activities of a chosen project. Why don't we now see an example for this step as well?
Right, Sukriti. So now let's move ahead and see an example for the second step, which is identifying activities of a chosen project. So we are taking the same example of making a medicinal garden here. So if we talk about what are the activities that, as teachers we can suggest to students. So for example, project has a time period of 1 month, that is 4 weeks. So as teacher, what I can do is I can divide the activities into 4 weeks. So for first week, I can give them that, I can tell the students that you can prepare the land on which you are going to make the medicinal garden, and you can also select the plants, that which plants have, medicinal value, and which the variety of plants that whole process can be done in the first week. Then in the second week, you can tell them that sowing of plants and about watering of plants. So the first process about creating a medicinal garden is this. So this is what can be done in the second week. And then moving ahead to third week, you can tell them that, once the plants are there, they are growing, then you can make name cards for each plant, and you can stick there on the pots with the medicinal value attached as well. And also we have seen that some plants have different names. One is the name they are known by, and one is the medicinal name, so one is the scientific name that is given to those plants, so that can also be added there. So if we can see here, students scientific knowledge about the scientific names of those plants is also getting enhanced here. Then we can also tell them to study the growth of plants, that the steps of plant are probably also recorded if they have, resources available there, so they can probably take pictures of every week and record it as well. Then in fourth week and the final week of the project, we can tell them to display the project. It can be in the form of a journal, it can be in the form of a, a project display. It can also be in the form of a chart paper where the student has stick pictures of everything. So this is how teachers can give, how teachers can give interdisciplinary project to their students by simply following these two steps. First was identifying a project, and second is identifying activities of that chosen project. So if we just move ahead and see for a moment that how the example that we were talking about, which was that of a medicinal garden, what all concepts from different subjects are being covered here. So here I would request all the teachers to take a moment and look at the screen and see, because we do understand that, some teachers might have a question that I am very interested in interdisciplinary learning and I want to give my students a project, but how do I know that my project is covering different topics? Because that's the whole point here, right? That, topics from different subject is being covered here through one project. So if we can see about this example, there are a lot of examples that are being covered here. So first is preparing the land. So preparing the land, the topic of soil is being covered, which is from science subject. Then measurement is also one topic which is being covered in mathematics. Then if we move ahead and talk about selection of plants and their uses, that is another topic which can be covered in science. And then if we move ahead and talk about germination, that is also covered in science. Then if we move ahead and talk about making name cards or asking elders about the beneficial effects of the plants, so that are some elements that are covered in social science. So Sukriti, like these, like this, all the different topics are being covered here,
Yes, Alina.
right?
So,
Yeah.
so as we can
Yeah.
see, that this is one way that this is one of the examples of an interdisciplinary projects. Of course, there are many more such ideas that I'm sure our teachers have as well. So we have understood all the three steps, which is identifying a project, which is identifying the different activities of the project, as well as mapping concepts as per these activities to understand whether our projects are actually interdisciplinary or not, and how they can bring together many different subjects for a student. So moving forward, Alina, we come to step 3, which is implementation. So we have seen how teachers can use different methods to identify, and then we have seen how they can use different methods to create. Now we come to the final step, which is the step of implementation. So here, Alina, we what the main idea was that you have to the strategies and the resources which you are creating and sharing with your students after identifying their needs and after identifying different stakeholders. Now comes the stage when you implement your strategies and you monitor the child's learning. So in remote learning, when you are in physical classrooms, it's a little easier to assess a student's learning and understand the different learning levels, but maybe online it becomes a little bit more difficult. So here we will see the different ways that teachers can use to monitor the child's learning while teaching remotely. So, Alina, let's move ahead. So, one of the methods, one of the strategies which we would suggest again is a strategy for students to reflect on what they are studying, because this is one of the best ways that we know that a student is actually learning what we are teaching them when they reflect on what they are studying. So here we would suggest that this you can use this method of 3-2-1, wherein after teaching your students a particular concept, or after giving them for instance, you give them an interdisciplinary project which they engage with, then you give them an info card of this kind, you share it with them. It could even be it could be online, it could be through messaging, or it could even be, through email, or you could even make physical copies, xerox them, and make sure that they reach your students. So what this 3-to-1 strategy is, that a student writes down their name and the topic that they have learned, the different subjects they have learned, and then they talk about three things. One is 3 things they learned today. So the 3 things that they learned by participating in the project or by studying any concept online, and then 2 questions which they want to ask, because we know that a lot of students may be shy to ask questions in class, and maybe they feel that they don't want to ask questions, or they don't have the time to ask questions while teachers are teaching, but these questions linger in their head, and the more questions of a student that are answered, the more clarity of a concept that they get. So then you give them the space to ask 2 questions, and finally, one opinion I have about the topic. So when a student reflects on any subject by giving their own opinion on it, it could be an opinion relating to the teaching strategy as well, or it could be related to the concept, then their understanding becomes more in depth into any subject. So this is one strategy that can be used, which is called the 3-to-1 strategy. So Alina, moving
Right.
ahead, like we spoke about in identify as well, that parents involvement becomes very important, and a lot of our teachers also gave us some of their ideas about parent involvement. So we would suggest that with parents as well, since they've become important stakeholders, or it could be any community member, or maybe grandparents, anybody involved deeply in the students learning at home, you could provide them a checklist of this kind to get better reflection on how the student is studying at home. So as you can see on your screen, the first point of this is, has the child completed the task within the given time? So then you can understand how good is the child with time management, or maybe there are some children who require a little bit more time to engage with the subject. Some children require lesser time, and you can accordingly create your strategy. Second is, has the child completed the task without any help? So that way you would understand whether you need to simplify your projects a little bit more, or you need to make it more difficult, or at what stage of learning a child is, whether they can complete tasks by themselves, or do they need help? Do they need your guidance, a parent's guidance, whose guidance? Then has the child faced difficulty in the task? So how difficult was the task for the child, and why was it difficult? Then has the child showed interest in doing the task? So, Alina, this also becomes really important. So, as you know, that it becomes very important to understand whether the child is actually having fun while learning and not just taking stress. So this is another point that's important. Then has was the child had did the child become aware of the concept? So ultimately, all the fun apart, we need to understand if the child has become aware of the concepts we are teaching, and then any other points observed. So this is the kind of info card that can be shared with parents or any other stakeholders involved.
Right, Sukriti. So, if we move ahead and talk about another strategy that can be used by teachers while teaching, so Sukriti, in So here we are talking about the larger framework, which is ICI: identify, create, and implement. So when we talk about implement, in this element, we see that, how teachers can use this while implementing. In the implement element, what teachers see is which strategy is working for their student, which strategy is working for their class or not. So in this, flipping the classroom is one such strategy that can help teachers understand how they can use and share resources with their students. So let's move ahead and see what flip the classroom actually is. So if we see, flipping the class is basically a strategy which can be shared here, a method which can be shared here with our teachers. So in this, what is the one thing that you do in a traditional classroom? You teach the concept first, right, with the help of probably a textbook, and then you revise the concept by sharing a video with them, or an infographic with them, or an interactive image from a book or a portion of a book, right? So first you are teaching the concept, and then you are sharing resources about that concept. But in a flipped classroom, you flip this concept and you do it in the opposite manner. First, you explain the concept, or probably you hook the student by sharing a video or an interactive image with the students. So through a video or an infographic or any such interactive resource, you deliver the concept, and then you teach the concept and discuss about it later with the help of that video. So this is one method that has been proved helpful to some extent, where teachers share videos and infographics to students, and they find it interesting, and they sort of want to know more about that topic, and then the teacher discuss it and delve into it to a large extent. So next question is, I'm sure teachers must also be thinking that how can I use this strategy, how can I use flip the classroom in my class with my students? So here are some steps that can be used by teachers. First is, first is selecting a video or a portion of a book which explains the concept. So first you have to select which video or which interactive resource you are going to share with your students. Then second step is giving the video or book portion to students with leading question. That is one, this second step is sometimes missed by some teachers, where they share the resources, but they do not share some questions. So always remember that, while sharing resources with your student, while sharing videos with your students, do share some thinking questions. Because, for example, if you are teaching the topic of resources from geography class 10th, so you will be sharing some uh, a video with your students. So do share some leading questions on the basis of that video, because the student, while watching that video, will have those questions in his mind and will watch the video keeping those questions in mind. Then third step is tell students to think and write answers to those questions. So if you can see here, of sort of, you are sharing the video and you are also giving a homework to the student, where student has to think about those questions that you have just shared and write the answers. Then fourth and last step is to finally have a discussion on those answers and to explain it further. So these are some steps, these are 4 steps, how keeping these steps in mind, you can incorporate this method in your class. So if we move ahead, so this was all a few topics that we covered in today's training session with you. We will meet tomorrow on the same time, but before that, we have an interesting task for you all. So Kriti, can we move ahead and talk about what the task is, and share the steps of the task with our teachers and how they can cover and complete this task? And the deadline for this task is 11 p.m. tonight. Yeah.
Yes, Alina. So, teachers, as you saw, we covered the ICI strategy along with examples. So tomorrow we will meet at the same time and continue our training. But before that, here is your task for the day. So the first step of your task is to sign up on Gurushala. So you go on www.gurushala.co to sign up. The second step is, on your home page, you will see teacher communities. You click on the teacher communities tab on the home page. Step 3 is to join the teacher community called Teachers of Nagaland. There is a teacher, there will be multiple teacher communities, but you must join the one that says Teachers of Nagaland. That is your step 3. Step 4 is that you prepare an activity idea for an interdisciplinary project. So just like we spoke about an interdisciplinary project today, related to medicinal plants, you have to think of some idea according to your different subjects or your classes, that what are the different activities or an interdisciplinary project that you could give your students, in which you can involve the materials from surroundings, the instructions for children, the instruction for parents for observation or any community member, and also the learning outcomes. So you think of an interdisciplinary project. And step 5 is to document or record your activity idea in a notebook, or you can do it in the form of a PPT or video, or even a Word file or PDF file, as you would prefer. Just document your idea for us, and then post your idea on the Teachers of Nagaland community. So this is your task for the day. So, and the most important thing is that the best entries that will be shared with us today will be announced tomorrow in day 2 session. As Alina mentioned earlier, your deadline is tonight, 11 p.m. So please ensure that you do complete your task for the day. So, Alina, we've understood what the task is. Now, let's see a demo so it becomes easier for our teachers to understand how they can participate in this task today. So, as you can see, teachers, this is the home page of Gurushala, which Alina had already made us familiar with. Like she said, at first, the top right-hand corner has a sign-in button, wherein you can sign in from your Facebook or Google or your phone number. Since I already have an account, I will log in from my Google account. But if you don't, you first sign up and then you log in. So once again, I would like to repeat that on the top right hand corner, you can see a sign in and sign up button. You can use your phone number, you can use your Facebook account, or you can use your Google account, and you can log in to your account. Remember to create a profile at first. When you create a profile, that is when you can access all the resources. So create your profile, and then finally you log in. And when you log in, there will be a page. As you can see, this is your home page. Out here, you scroll down under lesson plan on the left hand corner. You can see there is a button for teacher communities. This is the button that you click on, teacher communities. And when you enter teacher communities, you will see multiple teacher communities available here. You should feel free to join whatever communities that you feel are according to your interests. But for today, you join the Teachers of Nagaland community. There will be an option out here to join it. Since I have already joined the community, it says joined. Once you have joined the community, you click on the Teachers of Nagaland button again to enter the community. And when you enter the community, you will see the different posts by a lot of teachers who have shared even your tasks for the day, along with your along with different ideas will be shared on this community. Here, Alina, like you can see, there is an option of create post. So once teachers have thought of their ideas and documented it for an interdisciplinary project, they can click on create post, and a pop-up box of this kind will appear. So out here where it says share your thoughts, you will type in your name, your school name, as well as the name of your district, and then after that, as you can see, you can either type in your interdisciplinary project idea, or if you have created this in the form of a video, or you have created this in the form of a PPT or PDF. As you can see, there is a button for attach files out here. You click on attach files, and then you finally click on done. And when you click on done, it will be posted. We will go through all the different entries which will be shared with us today, and the best entries will be announced tomorrow during the training. So teachers, please ensure that you complete your task. It's a really simple task. You just have to think of a good interdisciplinary project idea and share it with us, as well as the many teachers who are joined with us at Gurushala. Alina, this is the way that
Right.
teachers can complete their task.
Right. So once again, do complete this task before 11 p.m. today, and best entries will be showcased in tomorrow's session. And Sukriti, some teachers are asking about the attendance form. So on that note, I would just like to tell them that the attendance form will be shared at the end of the session tomorrow. We do encourage all the teachers to fill that attendance form because it will mark as your attendance for this 2 day training session, and those teachers who will fill the form, they will be getting the certificate for this training within 7 to 10 working days. On their emails they will get the certificate. So on this note, thank you so much teachers for joining us today for this session, right? And
Yes, Alina. And just one more information, teachers, don't forget to log into gurushala.co today. Remember, you can log in from your Facebook or your Gmail account or even your phone number. And for any other help or assistance that you need, email us at info@gurushala.co. Once again, we would like to thank all our teachers for actively participating in the training today. Your suggestions, your ideas, and your questions were really important and significant to make this training more interactive and enhanced for all of us. So thank you so much, and we look forward to meeting you again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. All the best, and please complete your task. Thank you.
thank you teachers.